All right, you're in the market for a home, or you will be in the next year or two. You're thinking about coming to Florida and you're worried about all the cash offers we have in this state. Are you going to be able to compete? How many cash offers are there? Is it even feasible to buy down here if you don't have cash? Well, in today's video, we're going to discuss exactly that. Let's get into it. What is going on? This is Andrew Armonger with the Emerald Group here at eXp Realty, located right in the Florida Panhandle. We cover everything from Pensacola to Panama City Beach and of course everything in between. So if you're thinking about moving to our area, all of my information is on the screen. Please reach out to us. We've got your back when it comes to moving here. Now, if you haven't already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and tap that little bell so that you'll be notified every single time we do a new video. Now, cash offers. They're happening, okay? And they're happening a lot here in Florida. But are they happening this much in this area that we're at right now? So all over Florida, you're hearing that people are bringing their money from California and New York and all these other places where they've sold their home and now they have a lump sum of cash that they're willing to put down on a property. And what this is causing in some of these areas is a lot of financed offers to lose out because cash has a couple of benefits over a financed offer. So in other parts of the state, like Orlando, Tampa in particular, the amount of cash offers that they have is hovering somewhere between 30 and 50% of all offers happening in a lot of the MLSs. So exactly how many cash offers are happening here in our area, and how does that affect you? And more importantly, how do you win and beat them out? Let's first talk about the amount of cash offers so that we know exactly what we're up against. So the first thing we need to look at is a snapshot on exactly where we are right now. So in the last 365 days from February of 21 to February of 22, which is an arbitrary number, it just happened to be where we're at in the year, there's approximately 16,819 deals that happened in the multiple listing service that consisted of one of four types of loans, or lack thereof. Cash, so lack thereof, and conventional loan, VA, and FHA. There are other loan options. There's USDA, there's alternative financing like hard money and things like that. We're only talking about those four, so let's lay that ground rule. The other ones are miscellaneous. There are some here and there, but they're definitely the minority. All right, so out of the almost 17,000 deals that we are discussing, out of those four types of ways to purchase, we've got approximately 43% of them were conventional. We've got about 5% that were FHA. We have about 25% that are VA, and we've got about 26% that are cash. So that means a little over the quarter of the deals that are happening in our marketplace are cash. Well, where does that compare to the previous years? So looking at 2020, that was the year that coronavirus kind of kicked off in our country, at least. I know it was, I think, in China, like in 2019 in December or something like that, but it didn't really come over here until, about mid-2020. So when we look at those numbers, we've got approximately 14,100 deals. There was a little bit more than that. We've got 44% of those were conventional. We've got 6% were cash. We've got 29% VA, and we have 22% were cash. So a slight increase from 22% to approximately 26%. I did round up on all of these. So in case any of you guys are out there doing numbers, I did round up. So don't, shoot me in the comments, but feel free to go ahead and comment down below because we really like that. All right. So we definitely see an increase there from 2020 to 2021 leaning into 2022. But what happened right before Corona? Because this gives us a little bit of an idea of what the norm should be. And we can go back 10 years and it's going to kind of match this a little bit. Not exactly, but a little bit. So looking at January 1 to December 31st of 2020, which is right before COVID kicked off, we had a 40% conventional. We had 30% VA, we had 8% FHA, and we had 22% cash. So as COVID kicked off, we didn't see really an increase at all in the amount of cash offers. And then even after, when supposedly there's all these cash offers going in that you're hearing all over the country, maybe you're seeing it on videos or what have you, is not near as big of a problem, at least in this area, than it is in other areas. I know, for instance, I just watched a video from another agent in Tampa, and she said they're a little over 40%. In fact, they're creeping on 50% out in the Tampa area. So we're kind of a unique area. And I think a lot of that's just because of the name. People are going to know Tampa a little bit more than they know Destin, Florida, in a lot of times, or Fort Walton, or Navarre, any of the other areas that we service. So that's not a huge jump by any means. A 4% jump in the amount of cash offers means, yeah, we're competing with cash a little bit more, but not noticeably so. So all of these fears about going up against a whole bunch of cash offers are not near as valid as they might be in other parts of the country or other parts of the state, but that doesn't mean that they're not there, and it doesn't mean that you won't be competing against them. So we need some tactics and strategies to help beat out these cash offers so that when you're moving down to the Florida Panhandle and you have called us, we can beat the offers with you. So now that we don't need these numbers anymore, so now that we know that we're going to be competing against a cash offer approximately 1/4 of the time, now we just need to know, how do we beat them? All right, so you need to make your offer more enticing than a cash offer that does not need an appraisal. It doesn't need a survey. A lot of times they're going as is. They're doing all the things they need to do to win, and you need to find a way to beat them. So how do we go about beating these cash offers? Well, on a baseline, it's fairly obvious. We need to match or exceed all of their terms so that the seller sees our offer as more profitable or better terms than the cash offer does. So there's two types of contracts you can write an offer on here in Florida. There's an as-is contract, and there is a standard contract, is I guess what we'll call it for this video. There's no real name for it. The as-is contract is exactly that. You are electing to pay for the property despite any of its flaws. Of course, within reason. So in an as-is contract, you're going to have a clause in there built in called a right to inspect, right to cancel. What that means is you can get this inspected by a professional inspector, and if there's anything on there at all that you don't like, you pick up and walk away. No harm, no foul. You take your earnest money deposit, you don't even lose that, and you go ahead and walk away. Then there's a standard contract, as we're calling it for this video, and those are going to have repair limits. Now there's 3 different categories, and I'm not going to bore you with the details of those. I will definitely talk to you about that if you decide to purchase in our area and you give us a call. But for now, for the video, there's 3 different categories, and let's say that we have negotiated $1,000 in each. These are all negotiable terms. It's whatever you and the seller decide during the negotiations. But let's use $1,000 for each 3 categories. So $1,000 for warranted, $1,000 for wood rot and pests, and then $1,000 for permits. The seller is agreeing when they sign on that document that they will fix any warranted items that match that criteria. And the contract spells out exactly what it is, but it's basically things that aren't working as they're intended. This does not mean like the age of a roof or an HVAC water heater, things like that. Age is not a defect, it is purely an age. So they're electing to pay $1,000 in each of these. And if there are repairs that exceed that, your option is to ask them to pay for it. And if they don't want to, you have the option to walk away. Okay, so now that we have that baseline, most cash offers are going as is because they have that advantage and they want to make their offer as enticing as possible. So that's exactly what you're probably going to have to do. Now, just because it's as is doesn't mean you're not going to ask for repairs. You're really not supposed to. It's really kind of meant for, hey, here's what it is. Here's what I'm offering. If I don't like it, I'll walk away. But why not ask them, right? There's a couple of non-negotiables, especially if it's something that they're going to have to fix for any other financed offer. Then why not just ask the question, which is pretty common in our area here. So now that we might be competing with a cash offer, we need to make ours just as good, if not a little bit better. So how do we do that? We first need to do all the same things that a lot of the other people are doing. We want to stick away from words like standard, but this is kind of the cost of doing business right now with the way the market is. So things like the buyer paying title versus the seller. This is a negotiable item in a contract, and right now more people are putting it on the buyer's side, so it makes it that much more enticing. This is generally like a $2,000 to $3,000 cost, so it does raise closing costs just a little bit. Something to take note of. Now, in a lot of cash offers, they're going as is, which means that they're willing to get the property inspected, and if they like everything that they see, they're going to proceed forward. You're probably going to have to do the same thing on a financed offer. Now, one of the big differences between finance and cash is an appraisal, and the appraiser is intended to go in there to make sure that everything still looks safe. So even though you're going to get a home inspection, an appraiser might dictate certain things that have to get repaired. This is part of the reason why people like cash over conventional VA, FHA. And if you're FHA or VA, you're going to have to entice them just a little bit more because their appraisers do go through a little bit of extra training. I believe it's extra training. I'm not sure if it's just a list they get on or what, but they seem to be a little bit more strict than conventional on the items that they want fixed. So you're going to have to compensate for that to make sure it's better than that cash offer. Now, with a cash offer, they can generally close pretty quickly. In fact, the quickest closing we've ever done was 47 hours from contract to close, and it had a small title defect that we had to get signed by a judge, so we could have actually done that a little bit shorter of a time period. Now, that's highly uncommon. Most cash offers will do 2 weeks to insert day here that's important to the seller. Of course, that's non-standard. Most cash offers are anywhere from 2 weeks to a month, month and a half, or really whatever's important to the seller. So it's going to be very difficult for you to compete with a cash offers timeline because they don't have to wait for a surveyor and an appraiser. Those are the two biggest things that take the longest amount of time. But you can get your lender to get you conditionally pre-approved before going home shopping. And this way they take your package, they know you're good to go, they know you're buying, like the situation looks good. This is a lot of work for them. So a lot of lenders don't like doing this. And on top of that, it's a lot of work. So they want to make sure that you are purchasing in the area that they are doing this conditional pre-approval for, right? So they basically take your package, put it through underwriting, and make your offer that much better because now you can close quicker. So if the seller needs that, you have that option to close in 2 weeks versus, a month, month and a half. Now, 2 weeks is even kind of stretching it on a conditional pre-approval because, again, we do need to get a surveyor and an appraiser out there. But for the most part, you can shorten that timeline a little bit to make it a little bit more attractive. Then, of course, there's the obvious, like purchase price. You're probably going to need to have that purchase price above the other one in order to make your offer stand out. And there's a good chance you're going to have to put an appraisal gap in there as well. This is a very common tactic that is helping a lot of people win out bids in our area. In certain parts of the country, this has been done for quite a while, even before the market kind of went too crazy. And then their markets are even crazier now, but we're just now kind of seeing that. Over about the last year or so was the first time we heard of an appraisal gap. And what that is let's say the appraisal comes in low. So let's say we're offering on a $250,000 home, we offer $260,000 with a $5,000 appraisal gap up to a max price of $260,000. So in that case, you're saying I'm going to pay $260,000 if it appraises at $260,000 to $255,000, because $255,000 plus your $5,000 on top is $260,000. But you're going to have to pay that $5,000 in cash in the event that it's lower. But it does cap out at your max price. I know it's kind of confusing, but let's say that you put it under contract at $260,000 with a $5,000 appraisal gap, and it appraises at $258,000. You will now pay $2,000 extra according to the contract because you're gapping that appraisal to the purchase price. If it comes in at $250,000, you would now be paying $255,000 instead of $260,000. So it protects you a little bit, but also gives the seller just a little bit of extra leeway knowing, hey, if the appraisal does come in low, you're willing to pay the difference there. On a cash, they don't need to worry about this because there is no appraisal, so they're just going to get what they get. So your appraisal gap needs to match or exceed what the cash offer would be doing in order to beat them. Then, of course, you've got the all-infamous escalation clause, which is very popular, and it's actually kind of fading out a little bit because everybody started using it, and then everybody was stacking their offers. So using the same example with an escalation clause, let's say it's $250,000 listed. You want to offer $250,000 with an escalation clause of $260,000. Let's say you're willing to go up $10,000 more. And you're going to do that in $1,500 increments up to that max. What that means is if they get another offer that's, let's say, at $255,000 flat, they're not doing an escalation clause, just $255,000. Your escalation clause would now get enacted, and it would raise your offering price from $250,000 to $256,500, $1,500 more than the other offer. Now, there's technically a couple other nuances in there, but it's not that big of a deal. This is just the baseline of it, right? So that is another tactic to help beat out these offers. Now, there's another little trick I think more people should be doing that I'm really surprised does not happen often enough. Just as an example, we have a listing that's been on the market about 24 hours or so. We've gotten 4 offers and we're expecting a couple more, and not a single person has used this tactic, and it's the most important one by far. Have your agent talk to the listing agent to figure out what's important to the seller. That's it. Like, that is the best tip. If we could end this, I should put this at the start of the video. We could end the whole video right now. That's the most important thing you could possibly do, right? If you do that and the seller says, bottom line dollar is all that matters, which it does for most of people. Most people, probably 80% of people, that's the most important, but that's not 100% of people. You can win a deal purely off the terms with a lower offer. In fact, we won one recently that was $10,000 under because our terms were a little bit better. And all for me asking the question, hey, what's important to your seller? And this person said, I'm so glad you asked. They want this, this, and this. These are the three most important things. One of those in this situation that I'm discussing was a post-occupancy. That just means that the seller is going to stay in the home for a little bit longer after it closes and pay rent to the new owner. And it was like 22 days or something weird. I forgot how low it was, but it wasn't very much. It matched the timeline. They didn't need to move yet, the buyers, and the sellers got what they wanted. So in turn, they were willing to lose that $10,000 instead of taking that money and putting it in a hotel, lifting their family. They had 4 kids. They just didn't want to mess with it. Sure, they would have made more money even after paying a hotel cost, but the hassle wasn't worth it to them. So this is the most important thing you could probably do. They'll tell you exactly what they need. Now, not every agent does this. Some agents will say, hey, just give me your best offer. And most of us will tell you exactly what the seller wants and needs, and you're going to be able to tailor your offering to help with that. And the fact that most agents aren't doing this, in fact, I would probably say with the last several listings we had, if I had to put a number on it, I would say about 5% of the agents are doing this. That's like 1 out of every 20 offers. That's ridiculously low. So make sure that your agent has that information. Show them this video if you need to, him or her, show them the video, whatever you need to do, but make sure that they're asking that question. And another great thing that you probably can't ask your agent to do, but should be kind of like common sense, is to have a friendly bond with the other agents. So if you can, find an experienced agent that has a good reputation in the marketplace. Not every agent and not every experienced agent has a good reputation either, because that could make a difference. If 2 offers are the exact same and a seller says, which one should I take? And the listing agent goes, I've worked with this person and I like this person. They get stuff done. There's not a lot of headache. Everything goes well, and I've worked with this agent and it did not go good. They're going to push the seller to go for this one. They're going to give them the experience and say, hey, listen, I'm not allowed to tell you which one to take because we're really not supposed to here in Florida, but let me give you some examples of what situations were different, right? Now, of course, it could have been just one bad deal with this person that they really couldn't really do anything about, but it doesn't matter. That stuff still goes into effect. And although this isn't something somebody should be doing and basing their decision off of, what the seller decides to base their decision off of is up to them, as long as it follows fair housing and all of that great stuff, which it would. And the agent's not doing anything wrong by just sharing their experience and saying, hey, here's all the information I have. You make your best decision. So finding the agent that's a super hammer, that's really going to just, hammer the other person and make them feel dumb and try to get every dollar you can out of the other person, and, just make the entire deal a pain in the butt, but you think you're getting a shark, probably not the best idea. And because this video is already going a little bit longer than I originally intended, the last tip I have for you is if you're buying in this area, just give us a call, text, or an email, because we'll be able to walk you through all of our other tips that we're not putting on this video. So if you have any questions, let us know. And if you haven't already, go ahead and hit that like button and let us know in the comment section down below what other tricks you've heard about to help beat out cash offers. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next week. See ya.